Welcome to Wenger Arsenal Daily. First things first, a huge welcome to everyone who is reading this today. Whether you have been part of this community for a long time or you're finding us for the first time, we are really glad you are here. And if you have not already subscribed to the Wenger Arsenal Daily YouTube channel, please go and do that right now. We cover everything Arsenal, the big news, the transfer talk, the match analysis, the honest opinions. No clickbait, no fake stories. Just real Arsenal content from people who genuinely love this club. Go and subscribe to Wenger Arsenal Daily on YouTube and make it your #1 source for everything Arsenal. You will not be disappointed. Now let us get into something that every Arsenal fan should be paying close attention to right now. Martin Keown just told Arsenal exactly what they need to do this summer. Here is a question to start us off. When a man who played over 400 games for Arsenal, who won multiple league titles at the club, who is part of one of the most famous defensive units in Premier League history, speaks about what Arsenal need. Do you listen? Because if you do, and you should, then what Martin Keown said recently about Arsenal's summer transfer window is something you need to hear properly. Not just the headline, the actual detail, the real meaning behind it. Because when you dig into what Keown said, there are some very important things hiding in there that will shape how Arsenal look next season and beyond. Keown did not mess around. He was honest. He was specific. And he was speaking from a place of real knowledge about what it takes to win at the highest level. So let us sit down today and really go through what he said, why he said it, what it means for Arsenal, and what questions it raises for the summer ahead. What Martin Keown actually said. Let us start with exactly what Keown said, because it is important to get this right before we start talking about it. Keown said Arsenal may look again at the striker position. He pointed out that Kai Havertz played 90 minutes, but that it was only the second full game he had finished in 18 months. He mentioned that Viktor Gyökeres had a difficult night in Budapest. He also said that left wing could be another area Arsenal looked to strengthen. And then he finished with something very clear. Mikel Arteta will strengthen this summer. There is no doubt about that. Those few sentences carry a lot of weight. Let's break them down one by one. The striker question. Is it really a problem? The first thing Keown flagged was the striker position. And this is a conversation that has been going on in the Arsenal world for a while now. Let's be honest. Arsenal have had a striker issue for some time. Not always in terms of the quality of the players available, but in terms of having a reliable, consistent, fully fit number 9 who can play game after game at the highest level and keep scoring. That kind of striker is incredibly rare in modern football. The really top ones get picked up by the very biggest clubs, and they cost enormous amounts of money. Keown made a specific point about Havertz. He noted that the game where Havertz played 90 minutes was only the second time in 18 months that he had completed a full game. Read that again. The second time in 18 months. Now, that is not a criticism of Havertz as a player. It is not saying he is not good enough or that he does not work hard. It is a simple fact about availability. And availability is one of the most important things a top striker can offer. A striker who is only available some of the time, or who can only give you 60 or 70 minutes before he needs to come off, creates problems for a team that is trying to compete on multiple fronts across a long and demanding season. You cannot plan properly. You cannot trust that your number 9 will be there in the big moments. And when you're playing in the Premier League, the FA Cup, the League Cup, and the Champions League, you need to be able to trust every single player in your squad. Keown is raising this not to be unkind to Havertz, but because it is a real issue that Arsenal need to think about. So here's the question for you. Do you think Arsenal need to sign a new striker this summer? Or do you trust that Havertz can stay fit and be the answer? Tell us what you think. Gyökeres in Budapest. A difficult night and what it means. Keown also mentioned Viktor Gyökeres having a difficult night in Budapest. And this is really interesting because Gyökeres has been one of the most talked about strikers in European football for the last couple of seasons. His record at Sporting has been outstanding. The goals he has scored, the consistency he has shown, the way he has performed in big games in Portugal and in Europe, all of it pointed to a player who was ready for the very biggest stage. But a difficult night in Budapest is worth paying attention to. Not because one bad game means a player is not good enough. Every player has bad nights. Even the very best strikers in the world have games where nothing goes right. That is football. That is normal. What Keown is saying, and this is the important part, is that it is worth Arsenal looking at this area again. Not necessarily abandoning the idea of Gyökeres, but just making sure that the striker position is properly covered and that Arsenal have the right options. Because here's the thing about playing as a striker for Arsenal in a big European game. The pressure is enormous. The tactical demands are intense. Arteta asks his strikers to do so much more than just score goals. They need to press, they need to hold the ball up, they need to make runs that create space for others, even when the ball does not come to them. It is a demanding role. If Gyökeres had a difficult night in Budapest, it might be because the game was tactically very difficult. It might be because the opposition set up specifically to stop him. Or it might point to something that Arsenal need to think more carefully about. Whatever the reason, Keown is right that it is an area to look at. What do you think? Was the night in Budapest a one-off for Gyökeres, or does it raise real questions? We want to hear your honest take. The left wing question, an area that needs addressing? The second position Keown flagged was left wing, and this is a very interesting one. Arsenal's right side has been very well covered for a long time now. Bukayo Saka on the right is one of the best wide players in the Premier League and in Europe. He is consistent. He is creative. He scores goals, and he creates goals. He is almost always available. He is the kind of player that every top team wants, and Arsenal are lucky to have him. But the left side has been a different conversation. Arsenal have had different players filling that left-wing role over the last couple of seasons. Leandro Trossard has done well there. He is a smart, hard-working player who does a lot of important things. But there's a question about whether he is a true number 11 in the mold of a top-class left winger who can take players on, score regularly from that position, and give Arsenal the same kind of consistent threat on the left that Saka gives them on the right. Keown flagging left wing as an area to strengthen is really telling you something about the balance of this Arsenal team. If you have a world-class right winger and a good, but not world-class left winger, opposition managers can set up to shift everything towards their right side to protect against Saka and not worry quite as much about the left. If Arsenal could add a truly top-class left winger to pair with Saka on the right, suddenly opposition managers have a completely different problem. Now, they have danger from both sides equally. That changes how games are planned against Arsenal. That opens up more space in central areas. That makes the whole team harder to defend against. The left wing position is genuinely one of the most important positions Arsenal could strengthen this summer. Who do you think Arsenal should target on the left wing? Have you got a player in mind? Drop their name in the comments and let us have that conversation. Arteta will strengthen. Why this is not just a throwaway line. Keown ended his comments with something very clear. He said Arteta will strengthen this summer. There's no doubt about that. Now, to some people, this might sound like an obvious thing to say. Of course, a manager will try to improve his squad in the summer. That is what managers do. But actually, the way Keown said, it carries more weight than it might first appear. What Keown is really saying is that Arteta is not the kind of manager who rests on what he has done. He is not going to sit back after a successful season and think the job is done. He is going to look at the squad honestly, identify the weaknesses, and then go and fix them. And that is one of the things that makes Arteta such an exciting manager to have at Arsenal. He is always looking ahead. He is always thinking about the next challenge, the next opponent, the next step in the development of this team. When Arsenal were competing mainly in the Premier League, the squad was good enough. But now Arsenal are in Champions League finals. The level of opponent is different. The intensity is different. The margins are smaller. And the squad needs to reflect that. Arteta knows this. His staff know this. And Keown, who has seen plenty of football from the inside, knows it too. Strengthening this summer is not optional. It is necessary. And the fact that someone with Keown's knowledge and connection to Arsenal is saying so directly should give every Arsenal fan confidence that the club understands what needs to be done. Do you trust Arteta to make the right signings this summer? Has he earned that trust with what he has built so far? We think he has, but we want to hear your thoughts. Why squad depth matters more than ever at this level. Let's talk about something that sometimes gets overlooked in transfer discussions. It is not just about signing the best players. It is about building the right depth. When Arsenal were playing only in domestic competitions, You could get away with having one strong option in each position and then a backup who was decent but not quite at the same level. Injuries and suspensions were tough, but manageable. Now Arsenal are playing in the Champions League. Deep into the Champions League. Into the final. And next season, assuming they qualify again, they will be doing it all over again from the start. Champions League football in September. Premier League games every week. Cup competitions. International breaks taking players away. Injury and illness affecting the squad at random moments throughout the year. In that kind of season, depth is not a luxury. It is a survival tool. Keown pointing to the striker and left-wing positions as areas to strengthen is really about more than just upgrading those positions. It is about making sure Arsenal have real options in those areas. Options that can come in and make a genuine difference. Not just fill in and help the team get through a game, but actually push the starters and keep the squad level high across a full season. If Arsenal go into next season with proper depth at striker and on the left wing, they become a genuinely different proposition. Teams cannot simply wait for Arsenal to lose their key players before they become beatable. Arsenal can rotate, can rest players for big games, and can still put out a team that is capable of winning. That is what the very best clubs in Europe do. And that is what Arsenal need to do now. The Havertz situation. What is the right way to think about it? Let us come back to Havertz for a moment, because this is a nuanced situation and it deserves proper discussion. Havertz is a good footballer. We should say that clearly. He is technically gifted. He works hard. He has scored important goals for Arsenal. He cares about the club. And when he is fit and in form, he is a real asset to this team. But the fitness issue is real. Playing only a handful of full 90-minute games in an 18-month period is a significant concern for any player, let alone a striker who is expected to be a main source of goals for one of Europe's top clubs. Now, there are a few ways to think about this. One way is to say that Havertz has had some bad luck with injuries, and that with proper management and a bit of good fortune, he can stay fit next season and be the reliable starter Arsenal need. Another way is to say that the injury pattern is concerning enough that Arsenal cannot rely on him as their only real option at number 9, and that they need to bring in another striker who can either compete with him for the position or cover for him when he is unavailable. The second approach is the sensible one for a club with Arsenal's ambitions. You cannot build your entire attacking plan around a player whose availability has been uncertain. You need options. This does not mean Havertz is finished at Arsenal or that he will be sold. He is under contract and he is a quality player. But it does mean that Arsenal probably need another genuine striker option alongside him or instead of him. And Keown's words suggest that Arsenal are thinking about exactly this. What kind of striker does Arsenal actually need? This is one of the most interesting questions in Arsenal's summer planning, because not just any striker will do. It needs to be the right kind of striker for the system Arteta plays. Arteta does not want a pure penalty box striker who does nothing except wait for chances. His strikers need to press, to move, to create space, to work in tight areas, and to hold the ball when the team needs to relieve pressure. That rules out a lot of the strikers you might first think of. What Arsenal need is a complete forward. Someone who can run in behind defenders when the space is there. Someone who can hold the ball up and bring teammates into play. Someone who works hard off the ball and understands when to press and when to hold their position. And someone who can score regularly in big games and small games alike. That player is rare, but they do exist. And Arsenal have the financial muscle now to go and sign one. The question is whether the right player is available and whether Arsenal can get the deal done. Transfer windows are unpredictable. The player you want might not want to leave their current club. Another club might outbid you. The player's agent might complicate things. These situations happen all the time in football, but if Arteta and the recruitment team can identify the right striker and make it happen, it would be a statement signing. One that tells every other club in Europe that Arsenal are serious about being the best. Left-wing options and what Arsenal should be looking for. On the left-wing side of things, the profile Arteta would want is probably similar to what he already has in Saka, but from a different angle. A left-winger who cuts inside on their stronger foot and can shoot, as well as a left-winger who can beat their man on the outside and deliver into the box, would give Arsenal something very dynamic. Think about what that would look like. Saka cutting inside from the right on his left foot. A genuine left winger cutting inside from the left on their right foot. Both of them dangerous. Both of them a different problem for defenders. And then Gyökeres, or whoever the striker, is making runs off both of them in the middle, with Rice controlling things from deep, with Havertz or another creative player connecting the pieces. That team would be terrifying to defend against. Genuinely terrifying. Keown identifying left wing as a position to strengthen is not just smart analysis. It is pointing to one of the single biggest upgrades Arsenal could make to become an even more dangerous attacking team. Arteta and the club hierarchy, aligned and ready. One more thing worth talking about is the broader picture at Arsenal when it comes to transfers. Under Arteta, there's been a clear and strong relationship between the manager and the people above him who control the money and the recruitment decisions. Arteta does not sign players who do not fit. He does not accept signings made without his full input. He is deeply involved in every decision. And the results of that involvement have been there to see in the quality of the squad he has built. When Keown says Arteta will strengthen, it is also a recognition that the structure at Arsenal is functioning properly. The manager and the club are aligned. They know what they need. They have the money to do something about it. And they have shown the ability to attract big players. That is not something every club can say. There are plenty of clubs where the manager wants one thing and the board does something different. That disconnect creates problems that show up on the pitch sooner or later. Arsenal do not have that problem. And going into what could be the most important summer in a long time for this club, that alignment is hugely valuable. Final thoughts. Martin Keown is not someone who talks for the sake of it. When he speaks about Arsenal, it comes from a place of genuine care and genuine knowledge. And when he points to the striker and left-wing positions as areas that need addressing this summer, Arsenal fans should take that seriously. The good news is that Arteta is already on it. The club knows what it needs. The resources are there, and the ambition is absolutely there. Arsenal have just been in a Champions League final. They have shown the world that they belong at the very top of European football. Now the job is to make sure the squad is strong enough to go back and win it next time. Strengthening the striker position, adding quality on the left wing, building proper depth in the areas that matter most. This summer could genuinely be the transfer window that turns Arsenal from a great team into an unstoppable one. And that is an incredibly exciting thought. Thank you so much for following this on Wenger Arsenal Daily. This community is built by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans, and we love every one of you who takes the time to read, share, and comment. If you want the most honest and trusted Arsenal content on the internet, go and subscribe to the Wenger Arsenal Daily YouTube channel right now. We are there every week breaking down the big stories, the transfers, the tactics, and the moments that matter. Now tell us in the comments, which is more urgent for Arsenal this summer, the striker or the left wing? And who would you sign? Let us hear it. This is your conversation too. We are Arsenal, and the best is still to come. See you in the next one on Wenger Arsenal Daily.